Hi, good day, good evening. This is Lori Smith. I'm a MSU Master Gardener. I've been doing native gardening for 9 years and monarch butterfly rearing for 8 years. Today we're gonna talk about preparing your garden for the winter for the Warren Civic Center Library. So you want to know what to clean up or leave in the fall. So typically I will rake leaves and throw them in my garden bed. The leaves break down over the winter, adds the nutrients to the soil. And some species of caterpillars and pollinators will use the ground cover to nest in. If you leave the seed heads on your plants and don't cut down all your plants, the birds will have something to eat for the winter. You'll get some reseeding of the plants, but if you don't mind, and then you can help out the bird population to survive a cold winter. If the plant reseeds, what I usually do is I'll pull out the ones I don't want in the places I don't want. If I do want some of them, I'll let them go, but you want to make sure when you pull the weed, get the whole root. I cut my stalk type plants and leave about 2 to 3 feet in height. Those are the thicker stem type plants like your woodland sunflowers, your sometimes the green-headed coneflower, things that are really tall and stocky. They usually will have like a foamy type substance, or they'll be hollow, and the pollinators will go in there and nest in them to protect them from the cold winter. Planting and planting in the fall. So fall is a great time to plant seed bulbs, milkweed seeds, native plants, divide your plants, and transplant stuff that you want to move around the yard. Fall is a great time for planting or planning a garden makeover for the next year. If you wish to get rid of grass, you can cover it up in the fall using cardboard, newspaper, and as a last resort, plastic due to environmental concerns. Reuse cardboard in your garden, which provides a compost material, pesky weeds. You can cover the pesky weeds to get rid of them, and it helps develop a bumper crop of earthworms. Safe ways to kill weeds or grass. Vinegar does kill weeds in the cracks of sidewalks and driveways. You can Google it. Sometimes people will mix like Dawn soap and vinegar together to get rid of stuff to spray it. Please try to refrain from using toxic chemicals in your garden, especially if you want to raise butterflies or see butterflies and pollinators and birds in your yard, because that will either make them very sick or kill them. Toxic chemicals aren't great for humans either, or your animals like dogs and cats. Pull the weeds before they seed to make sure you get the complete root also. Grass has runner roots and are shallow, so that the root system isn't very deep on grass. Cleaning your tools for the next spring. You want to clean the tools to prevent the spreading of fungus and insect eggs that you gather on your tools from this year. You want to hose off any hose, spades, trowels, rakes of any soil before storing them for the winter. Because again, that dirt might have fungus in it, might have insect eggs and things like that. Thoroughly dry each tool with a soft cloth, so if they're wet, they don't get rusted. Sharpen and wipe down any pruning shears, knives, or shovels. Drain and store your hoses or fixed sprinkler heads for the next spring. Some people like to do that in the spring when they turn their sprinkler system on, and you'll see sprinkler heads busted. I myself, I have 3 rain barrels on my property, 2 on my house and 1 on my garage. So typically when you install the rain barrels, you cut the downspout that comes off the roof halfway. And you usually have to put your rain barrels at least 18 inches off the ground. So my husband built stools. And if you watch my other video, the tour of my garden at the library, I'll give you a link to. The very beginning of that recording talks about winterizing your rain barrels. So usually I run a hose to the spigot where the water comes out. It's like a spigot on for a hose and stuff. So I'll put a hose on that and I'll run it out to my trees so that the roots get a really good soaking before the winter and fall hits. I remove the rocks and I bag them in like a quart-sized baggie or a gallon-sized baggie, depending on how many rocks I have on there. And usually I get a box or a bag of rocks from the dollar store, real cheap. They're about this size. For $1, you get quite a few. I think it took me 2 bags of the rocks in order to fill 1 top of the rain barrel. I cover the spouts, the handle and the spout with baggies. I store them upside down in my garden. I also put the, there's a runoff or overflow hose at the top of the rain barrel. We unscrew that and we put that inside the barrel so we don't lose it over the winter. And then you want to put your downspouts back up for the winter. So you can just slide them in or you cut them. Or if you screw them back in, you can screw them back in. Soil testing. You want to, depending on what you're growing, whether it's flowers, herbs, vegetables, you want to make sure you know that you have enough nutrients in your soil. So I highly recommend getting the soil test. You can buy, one from over the counter at a store, or you can go on a MSU soil testing site and order a soil test. That the things under the get the soil tested before adding fertilizers, all this information was on the MSU page and in the Master Gardener book. So you want to, it'll test for soil pH, potassium, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. They'll give you levels of matter, organic matter that's in your soil and lead content. And then it'll tell you also how much lime you have. Lime is usually added to the soil to adjust the pH. And things like hydrangeas, in order to get the different colors like pink or blue, sometimes you have to add pH, make your pH higher. And lime does take a while to dissolve, so if you get this tested before fall or before winter and add lime, it'll be able to break down before the spring. You don't want to put lime in and then plant something because you'll burn your plants. Get my mouse in there. Okay, so the next probably 5, 6, 7 slides are about a garden makeover. This is the garden makeover that my husband and I did. We started in 2000. We started planning in 2012, 2013. These are pictures before the garden makeover. When we bought the house in end of 1999, we had an above ground pool that took up almost 24 by 36-foot area of our yard. Before we put this vegetable garden in, and before I had this garden, which was across from the pool at the back of my property, we had a fence all around the property and sand and playscapes. So that was one of the first things we did before even 2011, because I had this garden and when I showed my garden for the St. Clair Shores Yarders, they asked me to show my garden, and then I joined the club after that, the group after that. So these are the things that I had in place. So this was all new after we moved in. So this stuff wasn't here. The arborvitae's weren't there. I did have vegetables, and then I also had a couple of milkweeds. I had a couple of native plants. This is the winter of, I think it was 2012. I stored my radars back here. And this is our garage here, and the pool deck at the east side of the house. And it just had a narrow path. You could barely get through here. A little old brick path. And then we used to cover it every year. This is still planning and prepping the new garden area. This was spring of 2014. This actually was a picture that we took in April of 2014. It was the last snowfall of the year, or of the spring. And we had already taken out the walls to the pool that were rusting and the actual liner. These are bottles that we used to hang or hold down the cover every winter. So this is the back of our house, and this is the view from the back garden area. So we slowly, my husband slowly took this down. It probably took a couple weekends to get the whole thing done. We did leave some of the posts at the far end, and I'll show that to you when we get to the next screen. But we got rid of some of the wood. We donated it to different people. Some friends came and got some. We took out most of the pillars. The ones that he did get out when he was moving them back and forth, he could hear the water level, or water sloshing. Water level is only about 18 to 24 inches down below the main surface. So this area was full of sand. We ended up bringing in some good dirt and mixing it in with the sand. And this house was moved in 1950. It sat on Jefferson by St. Gertrude Catholic Church. They wanted to build a high school, so they put it on this property. It was originally built around 1917, and they were all strip farms. So underneath most of this building, especially here, they didn't put a lot of clay in when they were building. So it is good for fertile dirt and soil here. And then you can see the arborvitae's at the back of my property. You'll see that I had a change in 2018. The neighbor cut those arborvitae's down. So this area was in shade area originally. So what I planted back there was mostly shade plants. So what we did, we split the area that we took the pole down in 3 spots. So this area is going to be the patio, where we're going to put patio furniture, the table and the umbrella and stuff. This is going to be my native plants and other flowers here. And then these are the posts that we left from the pool deck. That's going to be my vegetable garden. It's kind of a weird shape because we left it and we didn't pick up the pillars because they were cemented in, so they're pretty sturdy. But we put landscaping fabric down and just put some temporary bricks that we were using in the stone pathway, and enough to hold it down so it wasn't windy. This was like the beginning of June of 2014, May-June, and then I put cypress. We usually use cypress mulch for my garden areas. I like the color. I don't use any mulch with dyes in it because that's not good for the system, for pollinators and other animals and insects that are in your garden that are good for your garden. You want the pollinators in your garden because they fertilize your flowers, they fertilize your vegetables. So if you're planting tomato plants or cucumbers or zucchini, you need pollinators. You need those babies to come in and pollinate your plants. Enough preaching, I guess. So again, this is my vegetable garden. We have trouble with rabbits, so we actually put chicken wire around. And we actually, when we put the fencing in, my husband put boards down to the ground level, and then under those boards he ran the chicken wire outside the fence about an inch or two, just to keep the rabbits from digging in and getting into my green beans and things like that. And as you can see, I started doing some plantings here. I still had some plantings from my vegetable garden stuff here, and I think this might be my reblooming lilac. But I put a lot of plants on there just to kind of give it some color back there the first year. And then we started the path for the patio that was next to the garage. So this is a 10-foot wide patio. We used the same color or same type of bricks that we used in our gazebo here. We put some other bricks, these bricks that are holding down the plastic, we put as an edging, as you see kind of here. So those are well raised bricks. And then this is the old sidewalk, thin sidewalk that goes from the entrance by the garage to the back of the house. You'll see it in the next slide. But this is my original garden again. We had this path that we put in years ago when we put the gazebo in, so we had a path through the gazebo. Again, here's the garden fence. We have the same coloring of stain throughout. And we used all the spindles from the pullback, so we kept all the spindles so that we could use that for the garden fence. And then it has the same coloring scheme on our back deck off our house, as you'll see. And you can see things are moving. You'll see this Japanese maple in the next slide. We moved it. So this is I think this was maybe later in the summer, or maybe the next spring that this was taken. So this is that Japanese maple that you saw back here. This was the fall of 2014 that I took this. It was at the entrance of our side street and where our garage is. So here's that thin sidewalk. We're going to replace that sidewalk next year. So in April of 2015, before the Japanese started budding, we dug it up. And it took us most of the weekend. We dug for a while, and then that Sunday it started pouring down rain, so we had to burlap it and wait a couple days till it dried up. And then we moved it, I think, that following Friday. And here's the move of the Japanese maple. So before it was kind of flat here. My husband said, you know, we need something for height, something for privacy. So we talked me into moving it there. So you can see this is a 10-foot patio. So the tree was probably about 11 or 12 feet if you count the distance of the pole and the root ball and stuff when I was laying down. And then this was later in the summer where it was blooming and happy with the transplant of it. And then this is the fall color. And then in fall of 2015, spring of 2016, we got rid of these narrow paths next to our back porch off our kitchen, and then next to a garage coming from the street and behind the house. So this narrow sidewalk goes all the way back. When we got behind the back of the house, they actually had replaced a previous sidewalk. So there was actually two sidewalks that my husband had to break through with a sledgehammer. A lot of work and a lot of cement that we had to get rid of. And then we also bricked in the path between the grass and the overhang of the porch. And you can see same color scheme of stain so that, you know, everything kind of matched. And we brought these bricks ourselves. I suggest deliver. A lot of work. Loading it and unloading it. This is shade garden. So this garden is now in mostly full sun. So these arborvitaes that I mentioned earlier, I was working one day and heard noise out in the yard, and the neighbor was getting his trees chopped down because his roof had to be replaced, and his foundation, since his house is so close, within 4 feet of the normal thing, his foundation was starting to sink on that side of the house. So um, they cut these arborvitaes down. So now I had to think, what am I going to do? You know, all this stuff that I planted in this back garden were shape-loving plants. So I had to move some, and some I just had to see if they would survive. And some actually really thrived once they got sun. Also, the common lilac, because of the arborvitaes were there, it was reaching out, so it's kind of bent on that backside that faced the arborvitaes. So it's still trying to recover from, you know, all the years of them never trying to get the sun. And you can see this is spring again, so it's like April. You can see all the tall stalk stuff that I kind of left for the wildlife. And here's the big old roots from the arborvitae. So those arborvitaes were probably 15 to 20 feet tall. They were taller than his gutters. And had been in probably 10 years or so. So they did chop up the stumps for us, but there was still some root left. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So here's a common lilac. It is blooming. It is happy. Had a lot of blossoms that year. So I liked having extra sun. In the fall and winter of 2018, again, you see that the arborvitaes are not there behind the gazebo and behind here. So we always take the canvas down from the gazebo, and this last fall we put our patio furniture and chairs and stuff together in the center of the gazebo and tucked them because we had other things in our shed that we couldn't put everything in. So you can kind of see there's the tarp still on there. And then you can see that, you know, leaving some stuff up in the wintertime and not cutting it down gives you some visual height in your garden also. So you can kind of see it's kind of pretty with the snow on it. The cardinals love it because they like to be in the snow. They don't migrate south, they stay home. And you can kind of see my rain barrels here in the garden and see how the path to that green kind of curves a little bit. And then this is spring and summer of 2020. So in the spring, my forget-me-nots were a sea of blue in the back garden. I have forget-me-nots a bunch of different places because forget-me-nots spread. I don't really care if they spread unless they're in the grass. My grain barrels were still stored for the winter, so probably a week or two after that we put them up. And this area we did, I think, over 4th of July weekend, where this was where the arborvitaes was. So on this line of the fence was where the trunks were of those trees. My neighbor wanted to put sod in there. He had rocks in here before around so that he could get in between the arborvitaes. But the arborvitaes were growing so big, they were so close to his wall, he could hardly get through. So he offered to get put sod down, you know, for us here up to my garden line. And then as I was leaving and we were taking out some of the roots and stuff, I decided, no, I would rather put some more chips in there because I don't know if he's gonna use fertilizer or weed killer, or somebody in the future, if he doesn't stay in this house, will use it. I don't want that leaking into my garden as much as it would if I had the grass all the way. Also, who's gonna take the lawnmower and cut that whole area? So we put this on the border of the property line. We put this plastic landscaping edging, and then we put some landscaping fabric down and through the wood chip stem. And again, I use cypress usually, or cedar. Right plant, right place, sun or shade. Make sure when you're looking for plants or you're actually shopping at the store for plants, maybe do your homework before you go out to buy something to see if it's going to do well in your area. You want to make sure that you watch, especially if you're just moving into a place or you haven't really gardened before. You want to check the space out that you're thinking about putting these plants. And watch your sun during the day. If something says full sun, you want to make sure you have at least 6 to 8 hours of sun a day in that area for your plant to thrive, especially like tomatoes and things like that. Some flowers need a lot of sun also. And then the ones that need shade do need shade. So just watch the pattern of the sun going over your property and see how much sun it gets a day. If you do plant it in the wrong place, I planted things in the wrong place before, it's easy enough to move them. So you either move them in the spring, you move them in the fall. You don't want to do it when it's intense heat because sometimes they won't make the transfer. You will lose your plant. This is my path from the back sidewalk behind the house to my gazebo. This is a Canadian goldenrod and the memorial garden to another with bench there. These are flowers that are in my yard, so I thought I'd talk about that a little bit. The yellow flowers are mostly blooming right now. Some of them are pretty much done, like the tall tsetse, but these 3 flowers here, I love to plant, and I like to have them in the garden in the fall. I'll leave them go to seed. Some of them I'll control a little bit that I don't want spreading. I'll cut some of the seeds off, but these are very large. You'll see if you watch my video about my garden tour. Some of these are 3 to 9 feet tall. They're high. Some of them are as high as a gazebo roof. But you'll see this video and be able to do some screenshots or take notes on what the names are and the height and soil conditions or growing conditions like full sun, partial sun, and the hardiness zones. I love these again. So right now my backyard, because it's fall, is in mostly full yellow, and then I do have some purple flowers blooming right now. The wild senna is used as a herb for laxative. They'll be in some of your laxative teas. It also is a host plant for the cloudless sulfur butterfly. And it has the flowers turn into bean pods. So the bean pods are or seed pods are growing right now, or getting grown right now. Purple flowers, purple's my favorite color of flower, and the butterflies love it. I really love this hoary vervain. You can see that I raised the monarch, so I'll give you some on there. This is a great plant to have in the fall. New England aster, it's a great nectar plant for the fall migration of the monarch butterflies. Missouri ironweed is pretty much done blooming. It's beautiful. The pollinators really love it. It's a really deep purple, really pretty. And it will do good in shade. I have some that's shaded underneath the roof of my gazebo. And then the marsh blazing star, this is a great butterfly magnet too. And then white flowers, native plants in my flower bed, again, or garden. Western curly everlasting is a host for the American lady butterfly. This is another aster. It's a white aster. I don't see too many butterflies on there except for maybe the skippers, but I do see a lot of pollinators on this. And then the virgin flowers clematis. This is the native clematis. It can get a little aggressive, so you want to take the flowers and the seeds off in the fall so they don't start flying around. But after the flowers get done blooming, it does have a slight fragrance. You'll get this, looks like an old man beard type thing. Mountain mint is great, really minty. I think you can use it in cheese. I haven't used done cheese with it yet. Joe Pye weed, great. Bumblebee and monarch magnet, they love this. Mine is about 4 or 5 feet tall. And spotted bellflower, this is a small, like creeping vine. I have this netting for it to kind of keep it off the ground so you can kind of see it. But the bumblebees like to go inside there. Rose muskmallow. It is like a mini hibiscus, and it's clustered together. Great plant, love it. Lacy leaves. This one here is a native wild geranium. Small pink flowers. They're probably no bigger than a nickel size. And you can kind of see some of it's mostly green in the winter. In the summer, real lacy. In the fall, it's turning red. The leaves are red. And some of the great brown color. Loves the shade. It is deciduous forest plant, so it does really well under trees and things like that. Some of my other favorite native plants, the white blooms of the culver's root, and that blooms a little earlier. It's pretty much done right now. A very obedient plant. It stands straight up, doesn't need to be stalked. The bumblebees, as you can see, they love this plant. And again, bees get a bad rep out there. They don't sting unless you're being aggressive towards their hive, their queen, or you're swatting at them. Bees only have one stinger, so they'll die if they sting you. Wasps, on the other hand, can sting you multiple times. And the yellow jackets are the ones that kind of look like honeybees. They're black and yellow striped. So just be careful. Bees are going to be fuzzy. Wasps are not fuzzy. Cutleaf coneflower, green-headed coneflower, great. The reason it's called cutleaf is the leaves actually look like somebody took a scissors and cut them. The leaves are huge, and the petals kind of droop from the cone, and the cone is kind of a greenish yellow color. That's what it's called. People also call it green-headed coneflower. The birds, the bees, everybody likes the seeds. It does spread through rhizome, so it can take over if you don't control it. I just pull them out where I don't want them. Great blue lobelia, great little stocky plant, 1 to 3 feet tall. It's doing okay in partial shade on the side of my house. The hummingbirds really love this. Bluish purple color. Other favorites are the black-eyed Susans, which most people, you'll see those in the landscape. Purple coneflowers also are very popular. They're great for the pollinators, butterflies, hummingbirds. Seed's good source for the birds. And bee balm. The bee balm is really good for the hummingbirds also. And then these are perennial plants that I like to share because they're easy to harvest. So one of the things, this is similar to that Virgin Bowers clematis, the native. This is not a native. It is a Asian species, but I love it. It's got small, very fragrant flowers. They smell like honeysuckle. So I have it near my porch on my lattice there, and it's just so fragrant right now. And it starts blooming. It started blooming a couple weeks ago, and it blooms until frost, and it can be 6 to 20 feet in height if it's happy. So full sun. and it's just gorgeous. And it won't really spread if you can get all the seeds off of it. And it does have a thick root or a thick stem to it, kind of like a grapevine or a regular clematis can be. Wild senna, again, these have like a bean pod type seed pod that comes from it. So I gather the seeds from that. Swamp rose mallow, it is in the hibiscus family. And I had the pink and the maroon. I get more seeds in the pink. That one I did buy from the native garden sale that we have. And that's what the bloom looks like before it comes out before it fully opens. But they're about the size of a saucer, so they're about this big. Very beautiful. This one's mostly in full sun, especially now because it's near my common lilac. This one's under the shade of my Japanese maple, and it does really well. This one gets a little taller. This one's about 3 feet, and they die back to the ground. This one's about 2 feet high and more of a roundish bush than these are. If you're gonna think about raising butterflies, whether it's monarchs or swallowtails, all the butterflies love to nectar on it in the spring. The only ones that lay their eggs on the milkweed are the monarch butterflies. They'll lay them on the bottom of the leaf, and I prefer the common. If you're going to raise them and you want to raise a lot, the common milkweed leaf is large and will feed more caterpillars for you. One of the drawbacks of it is it does have a rhizome root, and so it'll spread by rhizome underneath the ground, and it also spreads by the seed pods. So I always get the seed pods off. I don't care if it spreads by rhizome, and if I don't want a milkweed somewhere, I'll pull it out. But I do get the seed pods off in the fall so it doesn't fly and go in my neighbor's yards. I do also have swamp milkweed, and that's a root ball, but it's small, tiny leaves. Probably no bigger than these type of leaves here. And so it doesn't feed a whole lot of caterpillars. I do find eggs and sometimes caterpillars on it. The bloom is similar, but not as big, and it's a little bit deeper of a pink. Again, the swamp milkweed is a root ball, and it only spreads if you leave the seed pods. And here are the called native milkweeds. So swamp is the one I was talking about. So you can see it's a deeper kind of pink. It does actually, the blooms blossom later than the common milkweed. And the other one I have is the world milkweed. These leaves are really, really small. They're look like rosemary leaves. So they're tiny. I've never seen eggs on them or caterpillars on it. I do like it. It's kind of wispy. The flowers are white and kind of in the center, kind of a bluish purplish. So they're very pretty and just wispy. And then this is my resources. Again, I'm a Master Gardener trainee. I took the class at the Macomb Master Gardener in August through December of last year. And for the first year, you're training until you get your volunteer hours in. So you can go out to this link and see native, the smart choices from the Michigan landscapes will tell you what kind of native plants do well in Michigan. It also talks about planting near water, like lakes, rivers, streams, to be, plant natives that are good for the shoreline, not like some of the grasses and stuff that have become invasive. You don't want to fertilize near your water resources because you'll pollute the water and kill the fish and kill the wildlife and the ducks and stuff. Also, there's this source for rain gardens, and then all the different native plant resources that I've used in the past. Wild types Native Nursery, Plant Nursery, is out near Lansing, Michigan in Mason. They do have some public date sales, but we also, as part of the St. Clair Shores Yardners, we have a native plant sale every June, and you can check our Facebook page. You can also check the City of St. Clair Shores website, and we have a link to our native plant sale list and also our events. We do a couple meetings a year where we have speakers come in. Plant exchange, third Saturday in September every year behind the St. Clair Shores Library parking lot on Jefferson 11 Mile. We just had it this past Saturday. And then Barson's Greenhouse is in Westland. The woman that runs the butterfly house there, she is the one that wrote a couple books that I read. I saw her talk at one of our garden talks 8-9 years ago, and she got me interested in raising monarchs. She's also the president of the Southeast Michigan Butterfly Association, or SEMBA. You can find SEMBA on Facebook. Eckerd's Greenhouse is in Ryan and Sterling Heights, and Ray Wiggins in the Plank. These all don't have pesticides on their plants, so they're safe plants. You want to kind of stay away from big box stores that sell milkweed because they're they're grown with chemicals already injected into the plant. So I've seen a lot of people post that their caterpillars died once they bought a milkweed plant from a big box store. And that's why, because they have pesticides and to kill worms and caterpillars and things like that. So kind of stay away from those kind of places and look for something that talks about native and no pesticides. And here's my contact information. So this is my email address, my Instagram account, Twitter, and then you'll be able to find my garden tour. Will be uploaded to YouTube, and the link will be on the Warren Civic Center Library Facebook page. So thank you very much for joining again. Have fun gardening, have fun getting your garden ready for the winter, and any planning that you want to do of redoing your whole landscape. Good evening. Bye.